No Alone Again Naturally is not too bad, but I didn't completely love it. This is the 12th episode of the 20th season of The Simpsons. It's directed by Mark Kirkland and Mike B. Anderson. And in this one, the Simpsons end up losing their house. And Flanders, realizing he doesn't really want to see the Simpsons living on the streets, decides to bid on the house and wins. And he becomes their landlord. And well, I was going to say hilarity ensues. It does, but there are also moments that are quite upsetting actually, and the Simpsons are quite vulnerable at certain points. And Marge does a lot of crying. And if you've ever been in a difficult situation financially, if you've ever been, in a position where you might be made homeless, or indeed if you have been homeless, I think it might be very brutal. But I also think it's a good way of showing that people can become homeless in the blink of an eye, and you never know what might be around the corner. And Lisa points this out. Lisa says that life is fickle, which is very, very true. And it's a good reminder that we have to appreciate what we've got while we've got it, and that none of us is above losing everything. And I think the message is very clear. But it's not all doom and gloom. There is comedy, it is funny here and there, but I have to say it was more thought provoking than it was funny. It was entertaining for the right reasons. But for me, and I've mentioned this before, I always appreciate it when The Simpsons do heavy going, hard hitting episodes. A couple of episodes back, they dealt with the Muslim character who moved in next door, and some very nasty opinions about Muslims. And it wasn't a very funny episode, but it was powerful. This one's not quite as heavy going. But for me personally, I watch The Simpsons because I need something easy and relaxing and funny and, to unwind. So while I think it does a great job with these kind of messages, they're never going to be my favourite episodes or ones that I'd watch frequently. And especially if I'm rewatching The Simpsons, I'm more likely to rewatch episodes that make me laugh, or at least that don't make me feel worse than I did when I started watching it. But that's not a fault of the episode. It's just worth bearing in mind that if, like me, you prefer the episodes that are funny or at least light-hearted, this one's not so much like that. But the narrative was very well done, the pacing was very good. I think the roller coaster of emotions was pretty strong. And I'd say it's definitely a real credit to the series. But for me personally, I can't imagine I'd be watching it again. There's one sweet moment. Actually, well, there's a sweet moment, and I'll maybe say with a spoiler warning in a moment. It's not really a spoiler, but if I don't, somebody will have a go at me. But Lisa mentioned Peppermint Patty at one point, which I just loved because I'm a big Peppermint Patty fan. However, I do disagree because she said, well, she was listing her icons who were gay, and she said, and I think Peppermint Patty. But no, Peppermint Patty is far too obsessed with Charlie Brown to be gay. Well, maybe bisexual, but certainly not a lesbian. But I don't agree with that, but I love the mention of Peppermint Patty, even if I don't agree with what Lisa was saying. Nevertheless, the bit that I loved the most in the whole episode, and this is a teeny spoiler, it doesn't spoil the narrative, but it is a moment that took me by surprise. So this is the last thing I have to say, tiny spoiler from now. When Ned bought the house, and Marge thanked him, and then Homer hugged him. And I just thought it was so beautiful. And over the last few seasons, Homer has really been a lot more open about his feelings towards Ned and not making so much of an effort to hide the fact that actually he loves his neighbour. And the hug was just a beautiful display of that. It's definitely a really good episode, but maybe not the easiest to watch.